Now, Hunt Palmer. Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Friday. Working towards the weekend here. Appreciate you hanging out with us on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Casey Gaines and Jacob Beck back there on the ones and twos. We got 2 hours with you. We push off to the weekend. Lots of football will be discussed over these 2 hours. Tennessee got in trouble, kind of. They owe some money. Talk about that. New Baton Rouge Community College basketball coach Byron Starks will be with us at the end of hour number 1. College football coaches entering year number 2, facing campaigns in the 2023 facing defining campaigns in the 2023 season. That's in the second hour. Pro Football Focus likes Malik Neighbors. We'll talk about that in the second hour as well. So a lot to get to here over the next couple of hours. Corks brings you our Friday shows. Corks Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp on Government Street between Foster and Jefferson. Get on by there for a late lunch. Awesome fried shrimp, fried catfish, crispy fries. Great food over there from the folks that gave you Kuyon's Barbecue in Port Allen. New food concept here in Baton Rouge. We've been telling you about Corks for a couple of months now. It's list season. Matt does a segment on his show about local radio hosts feigning indignance over national football list every summer, and it's about that time. And I don't know if I'm feigning indignance. I don't know if I'm indignant. I just was interested in Phil Steele's quarterback room rankings in college football. It's magazine season. It's media days next week. Then I'm going to be on vacation at the beach the following week, and I will bring my magazines, and I will dive into this thing head first. But this is something I saw on the internet that I'm sure I'll read in the book here in a couple of weeks that I just have a couple of quibbles with. It's subjective stuff. You can digest it any way that you want. But I've told you many times over the last few months, really since January, how good I feel about LSU's quarterback situation. There was a time in the not-too-distant past where you could look at a school's quarterback room and go, okay, who's the starter? Who's the backup? Who's the freshman? What does the recruiting class look like? And that kind of gave you the roadmap to the quarterback situation for the next 4 years. Is that fair? That was a reasonable thing to do. If you want to pull the most famous one, you look at Jamarcus Russell, you look at the backup there, Matt Flynn, who's to take over, you look at Ryan Perrilloux, and you look at Jarrett Lee, who was the high-profile commitment. And you could basically read a roadmap. Now, it turns out Ryan Perrilloux kicked off the team, and Jordan Jefferson committed the next year, and he became the quarterback over Jarrett Lee. You know how that all went, but you could do that once upon a time. Look 4 years down the line and kind of look what things might look like. And that's when this was a more worthwhile practice, the quarterback room situation. Now with the transfer portal, we know that everybody's got transfers. I mean, just look at Phil Steele's list. The top spot is USC. Their starting quarterback is a transfer. The number 2 spot is Washington. Their quarterback is a transfer. The number 3 spot is Oregon. Their quarterback is a transfer. The number 6 spot's Tennessee. Their quarterback is a transfer. Number 7 is South Carolina. Their quarterback is a transfer. Number 9 is Ole Miss. All their quarterbacks are transfers. Number 10 is LSU. Their quarterback is a transfer. Only North Carolina and Arkansas have guys they actually signed out of high school. But I look at the list, and I just kind of read it to you there. And I've told you that I love LSU's quarterback situation because Jaden Daniels is going to be the starting quarterback this year, and Garrett Nussmeier had his chance to leave and didn't. And he's got 2 years after this one. So maybe more so than anyone on this list, LSU's quarterback situation is pretty defined moving forward. There are variables and things can change. We know that. But it looks like it's a pretty readable map. And I think LSU's getting shortchanged here. Maybe significantly. I'm not going to quibble with USC at number 1 as far as the quarterback room. I know that you don't know much about USC's backup quarterback. I don't either. His name's Miller Moss. He was a 4-star, the number 11 overall prospect. He was a 4-star. Then they have the number 11 overall prospect from last year in Malachi Nelson. I don't care about that. Caleb Williams is so good that I have no issue with saying that because he's that good, he's the reigning Heisman winner, he's probably going to be the first pick in the draft. He's awesome. That's as good as you can do at the top. I'm fine with him being at the number 1 spot. And I'm not going to balk too much at Michael Penix and Washington's group being in the 2nd spot. He was fantastic last year. Accurate, decisive, productive. Yeah, the Pac-12 is not quite as good as the SEC or the Big Ten, but Penix was great, and I got no qualms with that. They've got a former 4-star as the backup. Who cares? Whatever. Then you start to get into some territory of some situations that I think LSU is just as good at. They got Oregon at number 3. And Bo Nix's year was great last year. He completed 72% of his passes. He threw for 3,500 yards, nearly 3,600 yards, 29 touchdowns, 7 picks. He ran for 14 scores and 510 yards. He had a great year last year. And his numbers on paper are better than Jaden Daniels. He had 5 percentage points better in completion. He threw for 600 more yards. He threw for 12 more touchdowns. He ran for 3 more touchdowns. Like, his numbers were better than Jaden Daniels. But I think Garrett Nussmeier is a really proven backup. We're talking about rooms here. You know, Ty Thompson, former 5-star, is their backup, but he hasn't really played. Drake May is awesome at number 4. That's great. Heisman Trophy candidate. Potential top pick in the draft. But I don't know who their backup is, and I kind of like LSU's situation. But I can get on board with Nix being better than Daniels. I can get on board with Drake May being better than Daniels. I'm not going to throw a fit over those two. You start to get to 5, and I start to go, I don't think so. I'm not okay with Arkansas being ahead of LSU on this list. KJ Jefferson's really good. I very, very publicly on this show said many times how wrong I was on Arkansas based on their quarterback position 2 years ago. I saw him as a young player in Tiger Stadium, and I went, I don't know about that. Man, he looks good in the uniform. He's a big dude, but that doesn't look great to me. And I was dead wrong. He's really good. He makes good decisions. He's a load on 3rd and 2. He doesn't really turn the ball over. He can push it down the field when you got Traylon Burks out there. Like, he's good. But would I take him over Jaden Daniels? Probably not. And Jacoby Criswell, transferred from North Carolina, was a 4-star. He's their backup. I know for sure I'm taking Garrett Nussmeier over him right now. So I'm out on that. I mean, yeah, KJ, comparable completion percentage, comparable on yards based on the number of games played. Jaden Daniels played a little bit more because KJ got hurt last year. He threw for more touchdowns and a couple more picks, and the running is comparable if you give KJ another couple of games. Statistically, they're pretty comparable, but I like LSU's backup way more. And then this one I got huge issues with. I will hand up if I'm wrong on this. But this is in the SEC. This is some team that we watch every week, and there's no chance that I'm taking Tennessee's situation over LSU's. Just because Joe Milton can throw the ball from the 50-yard line of Neyland Stadium into the river doesn't mean that he's better than Jaden Daniels. He's not. And I know that Tennessee signed the number 1 quarterback in the country, Nico Iamaleava. We'll go with that. But he hadn't played. He's a 5-star recruit. I think LSU has a better starting quarterback than Tennessee, and certainly has a more proven backup than Tennessee. Tennessee's got a lottery ticket. Because you got 2, really, because you got a quarterback that can throw it a mile, who had a nice Orange Bowl. In the Orange Bowl, he was 19 of 28 for 251 and 3 touchdowns without a pick against Clemson. And Iamaleava is a heralded prospect. But if you're telling me, okay, you can have 1 year of Joe Milton or 1 year of Jaden Daniels, I'm taking Daniels. And if you can tell me you can have the next 2 years of Iamaleava or Nussmeier, I'm taking Nussmeier because it seems more proven. Tennessee's got lottery tickets. LSU's got low-yield bonds. Like, you know what's coming. I vehemently disagree that Tennessee's situation at quarterback is better than LSU's. I vehemently disagree that South Carolina's quarterback situation is better than LSU's, and they've got South Carolina at 7. Spencer Rattler had two really good games at the end. Did you watch him the first 10 weeks? It wasn't great. And you've got an experienced backup in Luke Doty. That's what Phil Steele writes. Freshman Lenoris Sellers and Tanner Bailey. Any of those guys got the skins on the wall that Nussmeier does? It's not like Nussmeier was like a 2-star. He was a 4-star. He's played against good teams. I'm not taking 2 weeks of Spencer Rattler and vaulting him to the top over Jaden Daniels. No way. Mississippi State's next on this list. Will Rogers is going to set every record Mississippi State's ever had. He also is going to be a 4-year starter in the air raid offense. We'll see what it looks like this year. They've got a former Mike Wright is their backup. He was Vanderbilt's quarterback, got benched last year. I don't think that quarterback situation is better than LSU's. I don't think Ole Miss's is better than LSU's. Jackson Dart was fine last year. Was he better than Jaden Daniels? No. Spencer Sanders had a good career at Oklahoma State. Walker Howard left LSU because he wasn't going to play over these two guys. I think LSU should be like 5th on this list. But I will say, after all that I like the fact that LSU's in the top 10. We've gone through some lean years here. You know. Having a spot in the top 10 here, I don't see Bama on this list. I don't see Georgia on this list. I don't see Florida on this list. I don't see A&M on this list. I don't see Ohio State on this list. So in that way, I kind of like the fact that LSU's that high. I think they should be higher. I got purple and gold glasses. I don't think anyone listening here would argue otherwise. I do get called pessimistic sometimes in the Bayou Ford chat, but I would push back on that a little bit. I think LSU's in a great spot at quarterback. Great. Because the transfer portal's always lurking at this position. Always lurking, always lurking. And you feel like Garrett Nussmeier's on the other side of that. Because the next time the portal opens, Jaden Daniels will be gone. And Garrett Nussmeier would be the presumed starter. So you can always transfer. And starters sure have. Especially in the SEC. But I just don't think that's going to happen. And so I think you've got 1 or 2 years of Garrett Nussmeier being the starting quarterback. And I don't know what the future holds for Ricky Collins. I'm not here trying to tell you that because LSU's got a 5-star quarterback committed that's about to start his senior year in high school, that he's a shoe-in to be a great player either. I'd rather have him committed than not. But I feel like those two guys are more likely than not to be your next two guys, and that's a good feeling. So I'd move LSU up, but they'll play the games and figure it out. I got a lot more Phil Steele to read coming up in a couple of weeks at the beach, but that's a little teaser as to what's to come. Jaden Daniels and Garrett Nussmeier, LSU, the 10th best quarterback situation in college football. Tennessee, speaking of the Vols, got in a little bit of trouble today. We'll talk about that coming up in about 15 minutes. Byron Starks from Baton Rouge Community College is going to join us at 1:45. A little Malik Neighbors talk coming up an hour or two. Little year 2 college football coaches talk in hour number 2. But when we come back, yesterday we took a pretty deep look at Texas, which doesn't matter to us this year, but will moving forward. And in 2 years, Oklahoma is coming to Tiger Stadium. What kind of situation is the Oklahoma football program in as Big 12 Media Days wraps up in Arlington? We'll talk about that next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
On Monday's OTB, choo! The boys will be live from Nashville, and LSU kicks off SEC Media Days once again. We'll bring you all the boots on the ground coverage. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
So yesterday we talked a little Texas Longhorns. We'll get to all the SEC teams next week, but we'll talk about the two that are incoming after one more year in Big 12 football. This week is Big 12 Media Days. Was in Arlington the last couple of days, and Oklahoma is the other one. Of course, Oklahoma is headed to Baton Rouge in the Sooners' first year in the SEC coming up in 2024. Which will be cool to see. It'll be cool to see Oklahoma take the field in Tiger Stadium. That's not something anyone's eyes have ever seen. We've seen Oklahoma play LSU in Atlanta. We've seen Oklahoma play LSU for a national championship back in 2004-03 season. But we haven't seen them in Tiger Stadium. And we missed that opportunity with Texas a couple years ago when COVID hit and Texas was supposed to make that return trip. And we'll get that in time as well. But Oklahoma's headed this way next football season. And I didn't pay attention to Oklahoma very much last year because they weren't relevant. They had fallen from grace. Lincoln Riley moves on to Southern Cal, and they hire Brent Venables. And they were not good last year. They finished 6-7. And Brent Venables talked about that yesterday. And it surprised me that Brent Venables' defense was second to last in the Big 12 last year, allowing 461 yards per game. How many times have I talked about X's and O's on this show? Not my bag. Not my favorite thing. Not the thing that I'm most educated. Not the thing that I'm most qualified to talk to you about. But I can tell you, sitting in the Superdome, watching that Clemson defense play the 2019 LSU offense, and I know that field position wasn't very good early, but that defense was noticeably prepared by my eye. They were very disguise-oriented. LSU's offensive line had a tough time figuring out who was coming and who was dropping. It was a really strategically sound defense. Now, just like every other defense that year, it eventually buckled and LSU went nuts and scored a bunch of points. But it looked really good to my eye, even though I'm not even certain what I'm looking at. And they just weren't any good on defense last year. We know they weren't good under Lincoln Riley. You don't figure they're going to be great on defense under Lincoln Riley. He's going to roll a Heisman Trophy winner out there, and they're going to win a ton of games because they're going to score 48 points most Saturdays. And you didn't expect them to roll out of bed and score 48 points every week, but I did think they'd be significantly improved on defense, and they weren't. And because they weren't good on defense, they were 0-5 in one-score games, and they couldn't put together a solid record. USC's out there going to New Year's Six games with Lincoln Riley and the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, and Brent Venables' team is going 6-7 with a bad defense. And then I realized, thanks to this article that I read on ESPN, that Oklahoma only put one player on the preseason all-conference list. That's a defensive lineman. And that doesn't mean everything. Media gets plenty wrong. I mean, look, if you try, they rarely get both division winners right in the SEC. How are we supposed to know every single player in the conference and accurately predict what the postseason all-conference team is going to look like? We don't know. So they could get it dead wrong. Oklahoma may have 7 all Big 12 players by the end of it. But I don't think it's a great sign they only have one preseason. That tells me there's not a lot of star power returning from last year's team. And it makes me think, like, is this thing eroding? Like, did they miss here? And it's certainly possible, but I think it's kind of unlikely. I think he's a pretty good coach. And to look at the recruiting rankings, I realize that some of this is Lincoln Riley, but you go back to 2021, they were 10th in the country. You go back to 2022, they were 8th in the country. You go to 2023, they were 4th in the country. And that was the first year Venables was in charge of inking the class. Now, they're off to a little bit of a slow start in 2024. I don't want to comment on it entirely until the dust settles, but they're 26th in recruiting for this cycle. They've only got 13 commits. A lot of the teams toward the top have closer to 20 commits. But if he doesn't recruit, then he's got no chance. First class was pretty good, and I'm sure he had a significant amount of help from Lincoln Riley. I'm not going to go back and look at what guys committed to Riley and what they said about Lincoln Riley and who committed to Venables. Like that's too much for you, the Baton Rouge listener. We're not going to dive into that too deep. But I do know that this class is all Venables, and it's 26 in the country. But that would be a lonely place to be if you've got the wrong guy and you're coming into this league. And you're playing LSU, and you've got Bama, and you've got Auburn, and there's Texas. It's not a comfy place to be if you've got the wrong guy. And as much as Oklahoma fans want to hate on Lincoln Riley because he left, the dude went 56-10 at Oklahoma. He won the Big 12 4 out of the 5 years he was there. They went to the college football playoff 3 times. And if you want to say the 2019 team ran them off the field and you want to say they never won a game, that's fine. And they had significant flaws. Like, the defense was not nearly good enough to win a national championship. And if that's all we want to talk about, that's fine. They didn't get that done. And Alex Grinch is still there with him at USC, and he's still not stopping anybody. And he was supposed to be the guy that was going to get this figured out. But 56-10 in 3 college football playoff appearances is still 56-10 in 3 college football playoff appearances. You might have had to sit through a 6-7 year to figure that out, but I can go to Austin, Texas, and Knoxville, Tennessee, and ask about that right now, and they'll take it. And that's kind of you can't really compare them to Alabama and Georgia. Can't really compare them to Ohio State. Even LSU, who's gotten to the top of the mountain and won some games over the last 20 years. So if you start talking about the next tier that has the ability to get to that level and hasn't quite cashed in, like these are the teams that you're talking about. A&Ms, the Texases, the Tennessees, the Michigans. And 56-10 is still really, really good. And winning the conference 4 out of 5 years is really, really good. And you can give him a pass on transition because Lincoln left, and so did a lot of guys, and the Heisman Trophy quarterback was out the door, and all that's well and good. But, man, is that a tough spot to be in if Venables is not the dude and you've got to walk into this conference. So I think this is an important year for Oklahoma. I know it's a transition year when you're coming out of it into the new conference. I know that things are weird in the Big 12 with Oklahoma and Texas on the way out and some teams coming in. But they need to establish a little bit of momentum because if they don't, it can be ugly. Now, that all said, I want to bring up one pretty obvious example here. The Texas A&M looked on pretty hard times when they came into the SEC. They had a first-year head coach from Houston in Kevin Sumlin. They had quarterback issues. One of the worst columns I ever wrote in hindsight was I wrote a column saying, man, 2012, kind of the year of the quarterback in the SEC. You got Zach Mettenberger. You got Aaron Murray. You got A.J. McCarron. You got some real dudes playing quarterback in this league. Really kind of the only team that doesn't have it figured out is A&M. They've got Jamal Showers, and I don't know how good he's going to be. And then all of a sudden, 2 took the field and won the Heisman. So how was that SEC Media Days column? Not a great one. We miss sometimes. A lot of times, actually. So one guy can change everything for you if Oklahoma gets the dude at quarterback. I don't know if Dillian Gabriel's the dude or not this year. But it doesn't mean if they go 7-6 this year or 8-4, whatever the case may be, 8-5, that they're toast for 3 years. Because you can change it pretty quickly. But, I think the head coach needs to be in place. And last year gives you a lot of pause with Oklahoma. It just does. So I think this year they need to get it on track, win 9 or 10 games, and then come in hot to the SEC. If you have another clunker and your recruiting class stays at 26 and you end up firing your coach 1 year into it, you're kind of caught up into a nasty cycle here. This is not a place you want to be if you're not keeping up with the Joneses. Missouri's fine if they just win 8 games. Oklahoma's not going to be fine winning 8 games. Oklahoma expects to come in here and compete to win championships. Fair or not, and whether you want to laugh at that or not, that's the expectation at Oklahoma. You want to talk about blue bloods, that's a blue blood. They're not showing up to see if they can get to the Gator Bowl. And they can lament Lincoln Riley and talk about him not being able to win the big game and not having a good defense and all they want, but he went 56-10. So they got work to do in Norman, Oklahoma. I'm excited to make that trip one day. Never been to Norman, Oklahoma. Never been to Austin, Texas either. I know a lot of y'all went there in 2019. So I'm okay with those 2 trips coming to the league. I'll make them once upon a time. But in year 1, just Oklahoma coming to Baton Rouge. We'll see what kind of year they're coming off of as of Christmas of this year. Our Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Got a birthday party. Got a company that needs feeding. Catering can be done by the folks over at Corks, and it is awesome. You can buy in bulk. Delicious Gulf fried shrimp, delicious crispy catfish. Recipe born right here in the seafood capital of the world, South Louisiana. So don't say, look, I'm from South Louisiana. I know fried seafood. I fry seafood at home. I'm not going to a quick dining restaurant. Hold on. This is not one of these national chains. This one's born right here in Baton Rouge. Check them out. CorksFishandShrimp.com is where you can see the menu. And they're on Government Street between Foster and Jefferson. When we come back, Vol's got in some trouble. I think
You're listening to Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Join me, Jimmy Ott, in a well-tanned Charles Hannegriff. Back from the beach. We're live Monday at Big Mike's Tavern in Denham Springs. Live at lunch, live from Big Mike's with the Tanned Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
So in December of 2017, Tennessee went on a wild goose chase trying to find a football coach. Butch Jones had been fired. The trash cans, it was not good. And they were looking for a football coach. And you had Philip Fulmer come in, and John Curry was the athletic director. Seemed like no one could get on the same page. They're flying out to see Mike Leach. Maybe they're not. Maybe someone's out there and they don't know. It was a disaster of a coaching search. But they settled on Jeremy Pruitt. And I got to tell you, that's one of the worst hires ever, based on results. Knowing what we know now, that was a poor decision. Not only did Jeremy Pruitt go 16-19 in his 3 years at Tennessee, that's a losing record. That's really hard to do at a powerhouse SEC program. Not only did he go 10-16 in the league, which is awful, not only did he go 0-3 against Georgia, not only did he go 0-3 against Florida, not only did he go 0-3 against Bama, the three schools they have to beat. You got to beat Georgia, you got to beat Florida, you got to beat Bama, or else you can't do squat at Tennessee. He was 0-9. Not only did he do all of that, he managed to have a football program commit north of 200 NCAA infractions. 18 of them were level 1 violations. Let me backtrack there. You can't beat anybody, and you're cheating like a dog, and you got caught doing all that. What are we doing here? Just awful on every level. Bad on offense, bad on defense, bad on special teams, bad on cheating. I mean, goodness gracious, 200 violations. So, the NCAA Committee on Infractions today announced the penalties for the Tennessee Vols. They've been placed on 5 years probation. They've received a reduction of 28 scholarships. They had self-imposed 16, so 12 more. And they got an $8 million fine. $8 million. It's believed to be the largest ever levied in an infractions case. And some of the things they found in the course of this investigation, $60,000 in impermissible benefits from Pruitt and his wife Casey, who were making cash payments to players' families. They found some text messages that indicated that Tennessee, during the COVID dead period where you were not allowed to have in-person recruiting interactions, they were hosting recruits left and right on visits and paying for them. Just flagrant cheating. And so Pruitt receives a 6-year show cause as well. He's served 3 of those already, so 3 more. But I'll say this. It's a tough spot when you get caught cheating for the NCAA and how they go about punishing you. And I think this makes a lot of sense. Here's what I mean. I don't think it makes a ton of sense to punish the freshmen at Tennessee right now with a bowl ban, because the staff that was hired 6 years ago was cheating like a dog. That's not an eye for an eye. You're punishing a party that had no involvement in what was going on. Let's punish the folks that were involved. I'm all for show causes for coaches. You're cheating. We see it. We've got documentation. Sit down. You're fired. You can't coach anywhere else. That's fair. And I'm okay with massive financial fines. Those are actual deterrents. to the violations. If you're a school and you find out things have been going haywire and you think that you may have $8 million cut out of your budget, that's not nothing. Now, some people will come on and say, $8 million, that's a drop in the bucket. Like, it's something. And it's far more penal than vacating wins. You know what that is? Pulling cloth out of the ceiling. Vacating wins doesn't do anything. It changes the Wikipedia page. They may have to reprint a page in the media guide. But the fact of the matter is that if you tomorrow vacated LSU's 2003 national championship in football, I was there. I saw it. I experienced all the emotion. You can't take it away. It's already happened. Vacating wins doesn't do anything. And I don't want to punish people down the line who had nothing to do with it. So if this trend of show causes and financial penalties continues, I'm for that. You don't necessarily have to punish the fans. You don't have to punish the new players. Punish the people that were involved. Punish the coaches. Punish the administration who either turned a blind eye or was lacking institutional control, to use that term. I'm for this. You're never going to stop people from trying to get an edge and cheating. But you can do things the right way on the back end when you find out that it's happening. And I think this is right. And so I think that now Josh Heupel and his program, full steam ahead. Like, yeah, you're missing 28 scholarships over the course of a few years, but you're not punished because Jeremy Pruitt is just a flagrant cheater. Some of the text messages are funny. You can go to ESPN.com, read the story. Chris Lowe wrote it. But it's like they're just very obviously hosting recruits on campus when it has been agreed on by everybody, hey, we're not doing this. Like, it's a global pandemic. These are times that we've never seen before. We got to shut this thing down. Sorry. Get on Zoom, make your phone calls, do your Twitter DMs. All that kind of stuff's fine. We can't have in-person interaction until this thing calms down. And they kept it on way too long. But Tennessee's just firing off text messages on university phones. Hey, this guy's coming here. One guy texted, it's all about the Benjamins. I think he was catching a few bucks. 200 violations by the Tennessee Vols. That's an impressive performance. All those violations and all that cash coming out of Jeremy Pruitt's account to lose all 3 games to Georgia, all 3 games to Florida, all 3 games to Bama, go 3 games under 500 over 3 years and 6 games under in the SEC. That has got to be one of the worst coaching tenures in the history of the Southeastern Conference. Just so brutal for the Vols. Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Appreciate them being great partners here of the Hunt Palmer Show. When we come back, excited for this conversation. Baton Rouge Community College doing some new things over there. Brock Cantro is the AD. I brought on a new basketball coach this week, and it's a guy that's got deep roots in South Louisiana. So we'll chat with Byron Starks coming up next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $25,000 off new 22 Ram 1500 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Get 3.99% financing on select 2023 models at Corvell Toyota in Opelousas. And we also have
It's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Friday's AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. The Riot Radio Hours return, and new LSU baseball assistant Terry Rooney stops by. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Closing up hour number 1 here on a Friday. We'll head out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline. We'll find a guy who's won a lot of games wherever he's been. College player for the Ragin' Cajuns, high school coach at LCA, junior college coach at LSUE, and now the new head coach at Baton Rouge Community College for the basketball program. Coach Byron Starks joining us. Coach, thanks for the time. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How about you?
Doing very well. Why BRCC?
A place where you can grow, a place where you can win, and an opportunity to transform lives. Simple as that.
The junior college level is such an interesting place. You got a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds with a lot of different aspirations and goals. What is life like as a community college head basketball coach?
Well, you know, for me, I don't look at this as a job. It's more of a calling than a job. And it's an opportunity to turn a 2-year relationship into a 20-plus year relationship. By the time we catch these young student athletes, they're between the ages of 18 and 22, sometimes 23, 24 years old. And we have an opportunity to help them in that next step and phase of life before they get into the real world of what we're doing, you know, working for a living.
You've spent a lot of time in Louisiana, specifically South Louisiana. I know you grew up in North Louisiana. We know how big football is in this state. We know the success that some of the college baseball programs have had in this state. But basketball, especially on the men's side, has kind of lagged behind. How would you characterize high school basketball in Louisiana?
Well, we know it needs improvement. I was just speaking with a gentleman just about 30 minutes ago, and we talked about the same thing in terms of the ability and trying to find ways to improve basketball in Louisiana. And that comes with the coaching, guys getting involved in good AAU programs, and just becoming students of the game. And because I grew up here in the state, I know that it has great basketball. I know I've been around great coaching, been around some great athletes. We've had a lot of good players, even up in North Louisiana, that came from my high school where there was over 47 Division I players that came through the small school. I just think it's just a matter of getting into the right system, having coaches, in particular within this area, Jeff Jones, who has an Under Armour team. I think it's New Balance now, Randy Livingston, guys like that who are invested in the state and invested into improving the game of basketball. And I feel like that's a part of my responsibility on this side in the junior college ranks is to make basketball relevant in our state.
Do you think that high school football coaches are at times hesitant to let their players play basketball? Is that an issue in the state, or is that something I'm just making up?
No. In some cases, because the two sports bleed into one another.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you finish football, or once you started football, which starts way in the summertime, guys are playing AAU ball. Then when the fall kicks in, if they're playing on the team, then the preseason for basketball starts. Once the basketball starts, then you have football postseason action. So it's a little challenge. I think when you have a good working relationship with the coaches, I think it can work for both the player and for the program. But, some guys kind of by their junior year in high school, they realize what sport is going to be their interest, and then they probably lean towards that a little bit more.
Chatting with new Baton Rouge Community College head basketball coach Byron Starks on the Hunt Palmer Show. You were on a Raging Cajun team that won an NCAA tournament game. Take me back to that experience in the NCAA tournament and what that was like.
Well, it's very good. When I played, it was in the 90s. We didn't have a look at colleges in terms of a low major, mid major, or high major. We just knew we were college players. And my freshman year, of course, the game that you were referring to, we played Oklahoma in my sophomore year. Played them in the NCAA tournament. But my freshman year, most people don't know this, we played Oklahoma at their place. Went on the road. We got there, and the gym was locked. So our coach, which was Marty Fletcher, was a little bit ticked off about that. We went to the hotel. They didn't have ESPN. We checked out of the hotel and we stayed in a totally different place. And then the next day, we go and beat Oklahoma by 1 point on their court. So my sophomore year, we draw them in the NCAA tournament. And, of course, all of the commentators were saying that, hey, it's Oklahoma's easy win. And then we go out there and we beat Oklahoma in that first round. And I really believe like we should have beat New Mexico State in the second round. We were just 6 points or so shy of that. They shot 30-something free throws. We shot 6. So that's the game.
It is. I'm curious your thoughts, having been at all levels of basketball in your basketball life. There is a thought that they may expand the NCAA tournament to 96 teams from the 68 at the D1 level. What do you think about that, having played in Lafayette?
Well, I think it's opportunity, because now you have a opportunity for players to continue to extend their basketball careers or their basketball lives at this level. In terms of recruitment and scouting, most of the NBA scouts kind of have a good idea of the players that they would like. But it's great for college basketball, great for entertainment. I think it's probably one of the highest, after football in terms of money generating sports. And I think it's just one of the great events of all time. March Madness is, it's top on our list. My wife is a huge basketball fan as well. And during that time frame, for 3 weeks, you pretty much shut everything down. The major, as they back in the day, the soap operas were shut off during that time frame, and you just watch basketball. So it has its significance. I just think with all of the fields, again, it gives more opportunity for guys to extend their basketball careers.
We'll circle things back around to your new job at Baton Rouge Community College. What needs to happen for you in that program between now and when you tip things off this fall?
Well, get the right people in our program. That's the mission, is to get the kind of players that fit our style, guys that are genuinely want to be student athletes in all areas and making sure they take care of business in the classroom, on the court, and in the community. And beyond that, having an AD that is 100% go in terms of the athletics programs here, the chancellor that's 100% on board with what we're doing with the athletics. I think it's a recipe for winning.
You're a Louisiana lifer, but welcome to Baton Rouge, and best of luck over at Baton Rouge Community College. Thanks, Coach Starks.
Hey, thank you so much, and keep doing what you do by spreading this word of sports all across our state.
We sure will. Thank you so much. That is Coach Byron Starks. Spent time at LCA and won a ton of games at the high school level there. Had an incredible run at LSU-E. He's now coming to Baton Rouge Community College. He mentions his AD that's go, go, go. I know that. That's Brock Cantro, who we know is go, go, go all the time. Also a big basketball guy, so I expect big things from Baton Rouge Community College on the hardwood here moving forward. All right, that's it for hour number one. Our Friday show is brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Telling you, the shrimp are big. They're deliciously golden fried. The catfish is clean. It is not fishy. It is not dirty. It is crispy, even in the to-go boxes. Cork's has fantastic food. It's always a great option. Get by for a late lunch or sometime this afternoon. If you hadn't tried it, I suggest you go through that drive-through. It is awesome. They get you in and out very quickly, and their food is fantastic. Appreciate them bringing you our Friday shows. Hour two, locked and loaded with a ton of football. We're going to start with a CBS article that is talking about coaches entering year two facing defining campaigns. We got one of those in Baton Rouge. I'll give you my thoughts on that. Malik Neighbors' conversation for Pro Football Focus coming up in hour number two as well. So lots to get to here on a Friday. Stick with us after Sports Center. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
This summer, retirement is a state of mind. Whether it's a mid-morning activity or an early bird special, grab a Coors Light and chill like you're retired.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCoRoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
The importance of doing this Fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the Fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a Fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. I think we're rocking and rolling.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Tennessee avoids a ban on bowl games after an NCAA investigation, but the school's punishment will include vacating wins, 5 years probation, an $8 million fine, and the loss of 28 scholarships during the probation. The investigation uncovered more than 200 infractions. Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz both win in straight sets today in the Wimbledon semifinals. Djokovic trying to win his 24th Grand Slam title, which would tie Margaret Court's record for the most all-time. ESPN's Patrick McEnroe.
You know he's going to be ready. You know he's going to relish this challenge, and this is what the tennis world wanted to see. Djokovic playing as well as he's playing, dominating maybe as much as he ever has on this court against the greatest next-gen player who's here.
Patrick McEnroe, the men's final Sunday. Tomorrow it's the ladies' final. Ons Jabeur and Marketa Vondrousova. Coverage starts at 8 a.m. Eastern on ESPN. And defensive lineman Malik Jackson, who didn't play last year, announces his NFL retirement.
When you're trying to hire, all that searching, screening, and interviewing can become its own job. You need Indeed, the end-to-end hiring solution that makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire quality people. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Now, Hunt Palmer. Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2 on this Friday. Work week just about in the rearview mirror. We're working towards the weekend here on the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Thanks to Byron Starks for coming on, joining us on the Hunt Palmer Show back in hour number 1. We're a lot of football here in hour number 2. And we're going to start with a CBS Sports article that talks about coaches entering year 2 facing defining campaigns. Like, that's not something we would have talked about 5 years ago. Year 2 would not really be a defining campaign for almost any new head coach. I think the expectation of football coaches entering year 2 5 or 8 years ago pre-portal would be, okay, what does that first signing class look like? Have you cleaned some things up? Do they look well coached? Are they competing more often than not? Obviously, the expectations slide depending on where you are, but nobody felt like their program was in place in year 2. And maybe college football coaches don't feel that way today, but the expectations in year 2 are there because you can bring in transfers in year 1 to help, and you can bring in transfers in a signing class in year 2. And let's be quite honest, freshmen are more equipped than ever to help. There was a time where everyone redshirted. In the 90s, you came in, you redshirted. Now, well, probably only going to be here 3 years anyway. Let's get you on the field. So it's just a different era with the development of programs. And so year 2 does feel important for a lot of these guys. I don't think that's unreasonable. I remember vividly last year eat the competition at Rufino's and do it every year. Charlie and Jimmy put it on, and it's a great event. And at the end, there's kind of a Q&A session. And I went last year to kind of help out, and me, Charlie, and Jimmy took some questions at the end. And one of the questions that was posed to all three of us from someone in attendance was, when can you expect Brian Kelly to compete and win the West in the SEC? And Jimmy started. He said, I think the third year. And I started and I said, I think the third year. And Charlie took the mic and said, year 2. Transfer portal, recruiting classes, 5-star freshman, year 2. There's no more, you don't get any more runway in this era. And Charlie was right. You can have your guys in place in year 2. Now, none of us thought what was coming last year was going to happen. Losing to Florida State, okay, that makes a little bit of sense. Getting boat raced by a Tennessee team looked as good as anybody in the country. That was kind of what we thought. And then they kind of ascended and took off, and it all kind of culminated with the Bama win. But I don't think anybody could have seen that coming. Now you feel like year 2, you really can. And that's why when Brian Kelly said, I just don't know that we're going to be ready to roll until year 3, I didn't put a lot of stock in that. I'm like, I don't think so. It's kind of the Kim Mulkey treatment. We're not supposed to be in the Final Four. We're not supposed to be here. Well, all of a sudden you pop a national championship. So let's go through some of these schools and coaches in year 2. Sonny Dykes is in year 2 now. Last year was his first year. I think that was a magic carpet ride. They won so many games late, close. They were trailing in so many second halves, and they just found a way, and Cinderella turned into a pumpkin in a big way in the title game. I think Dykes is a pretty good coach. You look at his track record, he built at Louisiana Tech, went from 5 wins to 8 wins to 9 wins, and moved on to Cal. It didn't work at Cal. He did have an 8-5 year in year 3, but then went 5-7 and was out of there. At TCU, he kind of built it up. They won 10 games in his third year, then won 7 games, then won 8 games. They're not asking for the world at SMU. That was enough for him to get the TCU job, and we know he went 13-2 last year. I think he's a pretty good coach. I think he's played in his last college football playoff. Certainly played in his last Final Four. But I think he can do a pretty good job at SMU and would anticipate that he would, even though they've got to replace their quarterback. Lincoln Riley, this is the interesting one. This is, does he have the ability to get it in gear? There's only one question with Lincoln Riley's tenure in Southern Cal. Will they ever field a really good defense? There are probably some people that would suggest to you that they can't. The offense goes too fast. The priority in the program is on one side of the ball. They're never going to be really good on defense. I push back on that. LSU went plenty fast in 2019, scored plenty enough points in 2019, and fielded a really good defense at the end of the year. Yeah, I know what happened against Vanderbilt. Yes, I know what happened against Ole Miss. I watched it all. That defense was really good at the end of the year. They played excellently against Alabama. They played excellently against Georgia. They played excellently against Oklahoma. They played very well against Clemson. Great defenses don't hold teams to 6 points anymore. And I think USC has enough resources and enough ability to recruit players and money to pay coordinators to put a good defense out there. The question is, this time next year, is Alex Grinch still employed? Because if they stink on defense this year, he's not. He stunk in Oklahoma, and they stunk last year at USC. He's their defensive coordinator. That's the variable. Lincoln Riley is going to continue to roll up ridiculous point totals. He's got a shelf full of Heismans at this point to show off. He's going to keep getting great quarterbacks, and they're going to be really good. This is not a Lincoln Riley question to me. It's an Alex Grinch question. Somebody can field a good defense on the opposite side of Lincoln Riley. We'll see what happens in year 2 before they head off to the Big Ten. Brian Kelly's next on this list. I don't think I have to talk too much about that. I think the program's in really good shape. I think it's healthy. I think they're recruiting at a solid clip. I think this team looks to be fairly balanced and fairly complete. There are some soft spots. I wouldn't say there are holes. Brian Kelly used the term holes. I think there are soft spots. I think they need more depth at linebacker. I think they could use a little more high-end talent maybe in terms of veterans on the outside. But you got Wiggins, you got Womack. Like there's something there. I think they could use an elite level top 3 round NFL tailback. But it looks pretty good to me. And I think the schedule sets up for a really nice year, too, for Brian Kelly. And I think the program is on steady footing. And you go out to the Pac-12, you got Dan Lanning at Oregon, who started his head coaching career getting beat by 46 points by Georgia. But they got rolling a little bit. They won 9 of 10. Bo Nix got going. And they had a chance to win the Pac-12. They lost to Oregon State by 4 points at the end, and that kept them out of the Pac-12 championship game. But look, Lanning comes from the Kirby Smart tree. We know that. Different part of the world, and I don't know what the future is for the Pac-12 when the two LA schools leave. But Oregon, you would think, has every opportunity to fit in at the top. And if they don't, it's probably Washington, which is next on this list because Kalen DeBoer is in year 2. And Michael Penix is kind of the face of that program. And you got to ride that wave when you're Washington. When you're LSU, you can always recruit the next class, and you can always get hot, and you can always have a great team. If you're Washington, you kind of have to go carpe diem. You need to seize the day. And when you've got a quarterback that's putting up numbers like Michael Penix and your program looks cool and is getting some exposure, is going to get some TV time, and that's when you need to seize it. So this is a big year, I think, for Washington before Penix leaves. That's Kalen DeBoer up there. And then you come back to the Southeastern Conference, and this may be the most fascinating team in the SEC to me. It's not Georgia and figuring out quarterback and going for a three-peat. It's not Bama because Nick's irritated because everybody thinks Kirby's the best now. It's not LSU with Brian Kelly. It's not even Tennessee. And can they replicate and what was Hendon Hooker? How much was Josh Heupel? To me, the most interesting story in the SEC this year is Florida. I know what Mississippi State can and can't be. I know what Ole Miss can and can't be. I know what Arkansas can and can't be. A&M may be pretty interesting. Florida, to me, year 2 of Napier is fascinating. Because he's got to get it going. Last year, they stunk. They went 6-7. And this year doesn't look a lot better on paper. The schedule's brutal. You're going to Utah to open the season. You're playing Georgia at a neutral site. You've got Florida State out of the conference. You're coming to Baton Rouge. Like, that's bumpy. Is South Carolina on the come up? Has Tennessee blown by you? That stuff won't fly in Gainesville. And this goes back to the initial point that I was making at the top. Like, you don't get 3 and 4 years anymore. You go 5 and 8, 5 and 7 this year. That's a massive problem. At Florida, they expect you to win, and they expect you to win pretty. They expect you to Spurrier it. They expect you to Urban Meyer it. Hell, like, Jim McElwain won games there, and they didn't like it because it wasn't pretty. That is a big-time year, too, for Florida, and it starts right out of the chute with Utah. That's and CBS has got him in needs to show improvement category. You better believe it. Same goes for Brent Venables. We had this conversation in hour number 1, year number 2. I can give you a pass on the transition year and losing the Heisman quarterback. Year 2, you better get it in gear. Mario Cristobal at Miami. This was thought to be the fit hire. Can we retire that term, by the way? There's no fit. There's good and bad. And if you're good, you fit. Cristobal sounds like the fit. He's a South Florida guy, big-time recruiter, can work with the money people. All going to work out. Well, they weren't great last year. They were 16th in the country in the preseason poll, and they went 5 and 7. So you better get it in gear. And it starts in year 2 because Miami's got a lot to sell. So these are big-time programs. Florida, Miami, Oklahoma. These are schools in a sport that has some that can win and some that can't. They can. They're halves. Got to get it done. And the last one is looking to make the jump. That's a category we're putting these year 2 coaches in. And Marcus Freeman is that. Now, some of you are a little more locked in on this than me. I don't care what Notre Dame thinks about Brian Kelly or LSU. I'm not trying to be right or wrong. I want LSU to win. I don't give a rip what Marcus Freeman does at Notre Dame. If we play him sometime, I'll care. If they're playing Bama, I'll care. But I don't care about the who's doing better thing. I just want LSU to do well. If that coincides with Notre Dame doing really well, that's great. And if LSU doesn't do well and Notre Dame's not doing well, it's not going to make me feel any better. But Marcus Freeman coming into year 2, it was wobbly out of the gate. You lose to Marshall, we got problems. Now you've lost your offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees, going to Bama. What is that going to look like? We'll see. I think it's a big year 2 for Marcus Freeman. And they got some others. Joe McGuire, Texas Tech, not real interested in all that, to be quite honest. But I think year 2 is big, and these are some big-name programs. I mean, we just read off USC, LSU, Florida, Miami, Oklahoma. Like, these are big-name programs, and I think these coaches in some instances need to put up or shut up. I don't feel that way about Brian Kelly because year 1 went the way that it did, and it probably doesn't feel that way for Sonny Dykes either. But it's interesting because year 2 matters. Those coaches about to embark on it. Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Back with more of the Hunt Palmer Show.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come on, in Baton Rouge. I'm remembering what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down to
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
On Monday's OTB, choo! The boys will be live from Nashville, and LSU kicks off SEC Media Days once again. We'll bring you all the boots on the ground coverage. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I want to thank you all, the listenership. Just awesome stuff over the last few days. I've been telling you on the show the last few days that next week on Wednesday, there's a fundraiser at LaBerge for the Baton Rouge Children's Advocacy Center. And I'm happy to be, or thrilled to be, a part of it as a quote-unquote celebrity waiter, even though I don't have much celebrity. But I'm thrilled to be a part of it because it's such a worthy cause. The Baton Rouge Children's Advocacy Center helps youth that have suffered abuse early in their lives. And I can't think of a better organization, a better cause to be affiliated with. And I'm told that my celebrity tip jar online is going awesome. And that's because of y'all. I really appreciate it. If you go to my Twitter feed and you would like to donate, we'd certainly appreciate it. At HuntPalmer88 is where you can find me on Twitter. I've pinned my tip jar to the top of my profile. You can click it. It's very easy. You put your name, put the amount, click it, and it's done. And you're doing just an incredible thing in helping young people who have had some adverse situations early in their lives, and that's just that's so awesome. So I'm honored to be a part of this charity, and I'm thrilled to go visit the Baton Rouge Children's Advocacy Center right after the show's over. I'm going to head over there and take a tour. I've not been over there yet, but just been raising some awareness and trying to raise some funds here. We'll do it all on Wednesday, but y'all have been great. So the tip jar is open until Wednesday. No donation too big or too small. If you can head over to my Twitter feed and donate, it would mean the world, and certainly making a difference in some young people's lives. So thank you all so much for what you have done and what you will continue to do. It means a ton, and I'm so appreciative. Saw on Pro Football Focus earlier today the top wide receivers in terms of next year's draft. And as you would imagine, Marvin Harrison Jr. tops the list, but Malik Neighbors comes in at number 2. And I think that's awesome, obviously. I've gone to football practices now since 2010, so 13 years. And we don't see a lot. We see a lot of guys running through cones, hitting sleds, backpedaling. It's not super exciting. I think for someone who's never been, to kind of see the inner workings up close and personal, probably worth a first try. After 13 years, you kind of get the drill. But early on in his freshman season, Malik Neighbors was doing some things that caught my eye as a very novice viewer. And it was pretty evident that he looked like the next guy. Remember, he came in that class that was very star-studded. And he's kind of asserted himself towards the top of it. Jack Besh is no longer here. Deion Smith is no longer here. You've got Chris Hilton trying to work his way back from injury. Brian Thomas has had a really nice go. But Neighbors has kind of been the guy. And he was, of course, a Mississippi State commitment who LSU flipped late. And he's been a star. I mean, last year, he was fantastic. You're talking about a guy who, in 14 games, had 72 catches, over 1,000 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was great last year. And I'd like him to get into the end zone a little bit more. But in terms of making big plays, he did it. I mean, I think famously we'll look at the play he makes down the sideline against Ricks against Alabama that was fantastic, showed his athleticism. I think there's more in there. And hopefully LSU is able to get the ball down the field to him a little bit more because he's a heck of a player. And I think deserves to be mentioned in the category of some of the really good receivers at LSU. I'm not ready to put him up there with Jamar Chase. I'm not quite ready to go Landry and Beckham just yet, but you start to talk about the DJ Charks of the world, the Terrace Marshalls of the world. Like, Malik Neighbors is very much in that category. He's Craig Davis to me. And I think he's going to be a huge piece to a potent offense. That wide receiver room is really talented. I love Brian Thomas. I think he's going to be a really, really good player for LSU this year. I think Chris Hilton's got a world of ability. I'm excited to see what Aaron Anderson can do. But Malik Neighbors is the one. He's the alpha. He needs the ball. He showed some speed on that reverse down the sideline that I didn't quite know was in the tank. When I think of Malik Neighbors, I think of pretty physical, really good athlete in terms of explosion and jumping, sure hands. That's how you get to 1,000 yards. I didn't necessarily see like straight line speed as one of his real assets. It's there, big time. And when you show me a guy that can rip off that kind of a run, 73 yards, that's something. And so I'm excited to see what this season has in store for Malik Neighbors. You look around the conference, and there are some proven commodities at wide receiver, like Anaya Smith is a great player at Texas A&M. And you see Pearsall at Florida's coming off a really productive year. But like Bama doesn't have the guy that they usually do. I don't see Amari Cooper over there. I don't see Julio Jones over there. I don't see Devontae Smith over there. I don't see Jalen Waddle over there. Like, Malik Neighbors has got a chance to be maybe the best wide receiver in the Southeastern Conference. Is that reasonable to suggest? And that's a great piece to start with. Now, the question is your quarterback going to get him the football down the field? And that's got to have been the focus of the offense the entire offseason. I don't think you're focusing on how to get some of these backs more touches. I don't think you're focusing on how to run Jaden Daniels more. Like, the focus on how we can improve and take this offense from what it was last year, which was a top 25 unit in college football, and make it better. And the easiest way to produce on offense is to get the ball to your most capable players. They don't have one more capable than that guy. So whether it's the short passing game, the screen game, whether it's the vertical passing game, deep balls, like, there's got to be a massive part of this summer and into the fall with camp that is involved around, okay, how do we best use Neighbors? Like, how do we get him the ball in an advantageous spot? That's all this is, right? You got to be balanced, and there are other guys you got to get involved. I just mentioned the wide receivers. I'd like to see Mason Taylor involved as well. I think there's depth at running back's going to help you. I don't want to shut Jaden Daniels down completely from running the football. But there's got to be a sizable portion of this offseason. It's like, all right, how do we get the ball to Malik? And they got it to him for 1,000 yards last year. But I'd like more than 3 touchdowns. Let's do that. And I was thrilled to see that the Pro Football Focus folks that watch more film than anyone are looking at this going, yeah, besides Harrison, that's the best guy left. I don't know that I necessarily had him quite in that class in my head. And that goes back to the next couple of weeks I'll spend reading those magazines and familiarizing myself with other folks around the conference and around the country. But man, that's a lot of respect for Malik Neighbors, and I think he's deserved it. You could see it early on in his LSU career. Now it's time to bring that to the next level and have an All-American type year that hopefully translates into a high draft pick after this year. If you're Jaden Daniels, don't you want to get the ball down the field to that guy? Do you want to take some chances with that guy? Just put the play against Ricks on in the Bama game. Like, that's pretty good. So Pro Football Focus says outside of Marvin Harrison, that's as good as there is in the country. Love to see that. Malik Neighbors figures to be a huge piece to LSU's offense here moving forward in 2023. We only got 30 minutes left to go in this work week. Hope your Friday is going awesome. Our Friday show is brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Go to corksfishandshrimp.com. You can see the entire menu. It's awesome. It includes some really cool stuff you don't see in quick service restaurants all that often or ever, including their baked potato. It's topped with crawfish etouffee and jumbo Gulf fried shrimp. How good is that? It's what they got over there at Cork's. From the same folks that brought you Kuyon's Barbecue across the river in Port Allen, corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Their recipe born right here in the heart of seafood country, seafood capital of the world, South Louisiana. Go on by and tell them that you heard about it on the Hunt Palmer Show. We certainly appreciate that. All right, when we come back, some tragic news out of Central. Central baseball program, a former player was killed in an accident, and Central's doing what they can to raise some money for the family. Baseball coach out there at Central is Leo McClure. Of course, you know the McClure family from their time at LSU. He's going to join us coming up next to show you how you can give. That's next.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team have been in the game for 30 years, redesigning and renovating bathrooms and closets. Interest rates still pretty high. May not be a great time to move, but you can improve your living situation with One Bath and Closets. They can come in and do a full-scale bathroom remodel. Doesn't take 6 calls to 6 different contractors to get it done. You call David Duvall in One Bath and Closets, he takes it from start to finish. That's it. I can promise you this, they're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. It may be a full-scale bathroom renovation or remodel, maybe something smaller, tub-to-shower conversion. You don't use your tub like I do. I got to bathe the 18-month-old every day, which, by the way, is a nightmare at this point, splashing all over the place everywhere. You may not have that situation in your house. You just want a nice walk-in shower. They can pull that tub in, put a gorgeous walk-in glass shower right there, changes the function of your bathroom, changes the aesthetic of your bathroom, and they can do it for you at One Bath and Closets. Go to the website. You can see testimonials. You can see pictures of their great work, and most importantly, you can request that free consultation right there on the website. It is onebathandclosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade, time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me, like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch. Hunt Palmer.
Join me, Jimmy Ott, in a well-tanned Charles Hannegriff. Back from the beach. We're live Monday at Big Mike's Tavern in Denham Springs. Live at lunch, live from Big Mike's with the Tanned Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Central community is hurting this week. Tragedy struck on Wednesday. 19-year-old Caleb Easterling, a former baseball player at Central, was traveling in his truck when a truck crossed the center line and struck him head on, and Caleb did not survive the accident. And so the Central community is doing what it can to raise some funds for Caleb Easterling's family. They've got a jambalaya fundraiser coming up on Sunday. Joining us now to talk about that is Coach Leo McClure, the head baseball coach over at Central. Coach, so sorry about the circumstances, but do appreciate you coming on to raise some awareness. How are you?
I'm good, considering everything that's going on, but I'm fine. Just a tough week for our community, our school, and, of course, the Easterling family.
Can you tell me about Caleb?
Yeah, Caleb came to us his junior year. They moved into Central, and his mother got a job at the school board office, and his daddy works at Ross Tire. And he came in as a junior catcher, and I had a senior catcher, but I used him as a baseball player to DH that year. And then I think, and I put a post up last night. There were so many things I wanted to say, but if you read everything that people have put out there, he was liked by not only his teammates but the students in the school. He was just easy to like. He was easygoing, and so the fact that he was well-liked, there are obviously times as a coach you're always pushing players to play harder, play more intense. He was our catcher his entire senior year, and it just gave a yeoman's effort behind the plate. If I don't know the number, but if he blocked one ball that year, he probably blocked 75 during the course of the season, and batted in the 4 or 5 hole for us, and he had a great senior year, and he signed with Holmes Junior College to go play. And then he was home this summer, and actually, I was telling somebody a few minutes ago on the phone, my last conversation with Caleb was about 10, 12 days ago. It was a little longer than that now. I guess it was a month ago. My baseball camp was coming up, and I try to hire either former or current players to help. I had 130 campers. And I said, Caleb, would you like to come work? And he said, well, yeah, Coach, I want to work. He said, but I got a job. And I said, well, what time does the job start? And he said, well, 9 in the morning. I said, well, our camp starts at 9. And I said, Caleb, you're not going to be able to do it if you got a job, but what are you doing? And he was cutting grass at North Park on their baseball facility, making money as most guys do in the summer. And he was getting ready to join Jude Grimion and transfer up to a junior college up in Missouri. And I think I don't know this for sure, but I was told this. I'm in Atlanta right now, but he was coming home from work that day when the accident happened. So, I could go on and on. I think about Caleb. I think about his mother, Becky, and his daddy, Casey. My heart hurts for him.
There's no question about that. And there's going to be a jambalaya fundraiser. You mentioned Caleb's father works at Ross Tire. The pickup for the jambalaya is going to be at Ross Tire on Greenville Springs. What can you tell us about this fundraiser?
Well, if you follow not only the fundraiser, the jambalaya, that's one thing. Lynn Ross at Ross Tire, and, of course, Glenn Harris works there, and that's Graydon's father, one of our pitchers. And he and Casey, Caleb's daddy, they worked in the office there, booking all the stuff that had to be done on your car when you brought it in. Well, they spearheaded this, and it started out with a jambalaya, and now they got a snowball group going to be there, but they've also set up a way to Venmo money no one prepares for their child to die. I don't think. I know some people do, and to actually bury your son is one thing, but to finance it is a whole other thing. So I don't know the number, but I know people are responding over and over to help the family, and it just speaks of how he was seen by people. He was a nice kid, and in the year 2023, it says a lot when you raise a good kid.
Well, Coach, we certainly appreciate you taking some time. I'll be sure to relay everything, and I'll send out a tweet as well with all the details of the fundraiser. But thanks so much for coming on and remembering Caleb and spreading some awareness for this fundraiser. Again, so sorry it was under these circumstances, but we appreciate it.
No, I appreciate y'all taking time, and there's going to be some other things we do to honor him in the future at Central High School.
Wonderful. We'll certainly be there to let everyone know what goes on there. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
That is Coach Leo McClure. Of course, he is the coach at Central High School for baseball, also Trey and Todd's dad. And Central's just such a tight-knit community, so happy to bring Coach on to give the details here. If you want to give and can't go pick up Jambalaya up on Greenville Springs Road coming up on Sunday, the Venmo is open. It's at Play Like Caleb. That's CALEB, at Play Like Caleb. They're asking for $10 cash donations or Venmo donations there. That's what the plate of Jambalaya will be for. It's to benefit the family of Caleb Easterling, who tragically lost his life earlier this week in an automobile accident. Just finished up at Central High School and was playing junior college baseball. So look again, at Play Like Caleb is where you can donate to the family of Caleb Easterling. So we appreciate Coach to come on. There is no way to transition out of that at all. So what we'll do, we'll take a timeout and we will come back and finish the show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
And things like that. We're just talking about the Jambalaya fundraiser and the tight-knit community that is Central that we see all over our great state. It's one of the things that makes Louisiana so awesome. There are a lot of things that make Louisiana awesome, and LWCC does whatever they can to highlight that. And that's why they came up with their Champions of Louisiana campaign, and we tell you about one each and every day on this show. Corey Barr, certainly a champion of Louisiana, gotten some national acclaim in the culinary world, beat Bobby Flay, won Chopped, America's Next Food Network star, but he comes back home to Monroe. That's where he operates his 3 businesses, and that's what's important to him, is being part of this great state. Corey Barr, certainly a champion of Louisiana. If you know of one, go to lwcc.com/champions. Research all the champions that we've given you, or just nominate a new one so we can tell their story right here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Corey Barr is a champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana loyal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
It's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Friday's AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. The Riot Radio Hours return, and new LSU baseball assistant Terry Rooney stops by. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One more segment to go here. Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. I was looking at ESPN.com earlier today, and they're going through their position groups and ranking them 1 through 10 in the National Football League. And the one that I saw today was on running backs, and Nick Chubb brings up the number 1 ranking. Cleveland Browns running back was sensational last year. Christian McCaffrey comes in at 2. You got Josh Jacobs at 3. Saquon Barkley at 4. We talked about him yesterday and whether or not the Giants are going to bring out the checkbook for their stud running back, who comes in at number 4. Derrick Henry still hanging on at number 5. Jonathan Taylor, who's running up ridiculous numbers in Indianapolis, is number 6. And Alvin Kamara still comes in at number 7. And they do this every year. The highest Kamara's ever been was number 3. Last year he was number 5. And they're saying that the loss of Breeze and Peyton has really compromised Kamara over the last year, and then the suspension will this year as well. But he's still a guy that's got his agility. He's got change of direction. He's never been like the fastest guy on the field. I think he's been the slipperiest guy on the field for maybe his entire football career. But he's still got the goods, and I think that that's maybe the blessing in disguise here. And I don't want anybody getting into bar fights, and I don't love getting into run-ins with the law and suspensions, and that's obviously not a good thing for the Saints. But when you consider a guy that's in his age 27 season, and you consider that he may sit the first 6 games, maybe around Thanksgiving when everybody's legs are a little tired and guys are begging for the off week and kind of run down and feeling the bumps and bruises of a long NFL season, he's feeling pretty good at 27. And it's fresh legs. Not only need those late in games, late in seasons, they may be able to help. So, again, would I rather Kamara play 17 games? Yeah, I would. Can I see a little bit around the corner there and say, 27-year-old back that's been the lead back for your team for a good bit now, gets 6 weeks off theoretically? Maybe it's only 4, maybe it's 9, I don't know. But the way the division is set up, it's not like the Bengals and Ravens and Steelers that feel like they really need to win 12 games to win that division. Like, that's the way you're going to feel over there. If you're in the Chiefs division, you feel like you need to win 12 or 13 games to win that division. In the NFC South, you don't feel that way. So you might trade a loss in late September for some fresh Kamara legs in early December. And ESPN still thinks he's a top 10 back in the league. Rounding out the list is Dalvin Cook, Tony Pollard with the Cowboys, who I actually think is fantastic and love that they include him. Then Austin Eckler comes in at 10. I think Kamara's still got some juice in the tank, and he gets to save some of it early, which might be a good thing down the line. Again, folks, don't get into bar fights, but it might be a good situation for the Saints. We'll see how that materializes. All right, back. Let's play some Take It or Leave It.
All right, first one here in the ESPN report on John Gruden. It was uncovered that Sean Payton and Gruden were both fined $100K for violating the COVID safety protocols during the 2020 season, and that Payton never paid the fine. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to take it. I mean, look, Sean P. probably not a huge fan of some of the execs in the NFL. Is that fair to say? Fair to say that Sean P has gotten crossways with Commissioner Goodell a time or two? And I think it's hilarious that they said, you owe us $100,000, and he just said no.
And obviously it didn't affect him getting a job.
No, it did not in the least. I mean, I think we can look back now. At least I will. I don't know how anyone else feels, but I'm going to look back now and say that it was probably pretty dumb that football coaches were wearing masks unless they needed to talk to their players. It was probably dumb. We were trying stuff. We didn't know what was going on there, and I was all for us figuring out a way to play football. And if the way for us to play football, play sports in general, was to throw a mask on some people on the sidelines, like that's what we were going to do. But in hindsight, it probably didn't do a lot and was probably stupid. And the fact the NFL was fining guys $100,000 for not wearing their mask enough. Like, it's around the chin, you're not using it, but you can take it down to yell at the official or call a play and then put it back on. Like, that was probably pretty stupid. And the fact that Gruden did pay the fine and Peyton said, well, I'm just not cutting the check, is humorous to me, at least, and kind of on brand for Sean Payton. I don't know if the NFL is going to see it and say, hey, oh, by the way, you still work for us. I'm going to need that $100,000. I don't know how that works. I don't know what the punishment would be if they came back and said, oh, yeah, but you didn't pay it. But if you go back and read the story as they were uncovering this, I think I saw this on ESPN, the way that Sean Payton described it was a little more colorful than I didn't pay the fine. He called Gruden a kind of colorful name in jest. He was joking with him. But, yeah, I think it's hilarious that Sean Payton just didn't cut the check.
Former Alabama guard Javon Quinterly is transferring to Memphis. Nate Oates will still repeat as SEC champs. Take it or leave it.
I'll leave that. I thought that was curious that Javon Quinterly having a real. I mean, he started at Villanova. He was a 5-star recruit, went to Nova, and ended up transferring to Alabama. And he's had a good run there, and he would play a lot. He did not start the majority of the year last year. He did start in the SEC tournament and the NCAA tournament for Alabama, and then obviously San Diego State beat him. It's just weird to leave that program that feels like it's really doing well to go to Memphis, who's like, okay. I mean, I guess playing for Penny Hardaway is cool, and you get to play an NBA arena, which is a lot nicer than Coleman Coliseum, but you're still playing a significantly lower level of basketball than you were, and I think he would have played a lot for Alabama this year. So I don't really get the move. I don't know what all was involved in it, but I'm going to leave Alabama repeating as SEC champs. I think Oates is doing a really good job there, as much as it pains me to say that, but I'm not going to pick them to win the league.
All right, last one here. The SEC championship game will remain in Atlanta for the foreseeable future. SEC officials announced that today. The game should rotate cities. Take it or leave it.
What do we know about me, Jacob Beck? We know that when rules are put in place and decisions are made in college athletics, my first instinct is not what's fair. My first instinct is, how does that affect LSU? That's how I think. And so in keeping with that theme, I would like it to rotate. I would like it to come to New Orleans. I would like it to go to Houston. Because every time we play in that game, Georgia's on the other sideline, and the game's 15 minutes from most of their fans' houses. So I would like it to rotate. I think Atlanta does a great job of hosting it. I've heard that stadium is awesome. I have not been in it yet.
Pretty cool.
So I think they do a great job. I do think it is a detriment to LSU to play the game there because we're in the West and it's far away. We do a pretty good job of traveling there when we need to, but if you play Tennessee or Georgia over there, it's going to be 70-30 almost every time, and I don't love that. So if they could bring that thing to Atlanta, to New Orleans, I would be all for that. There are a lot of places that could host this game. Houston, Arlington, New Orleans, Tampa, Nashville. Like, we could do this a lot of different places, and I think that coming westward would help LSU, so naturally, that's my solution, is to do a little rotating. And I think that, I mean, the SEC Championship in New Orleans would be awesome. The setup in New Orleans, say what you will about, the city of New Orleans. Some people love it. Some people don't. Some people like to visit. Some people don't. I do. And I think that having it in New Orleans would be awesome. And certainly for LSU it would be. So I'll take it. I think they should rotate cities. That'll just about do it here for the Hunt Palmer Show on a Friday. Here's what we got into on today's show. Phil Steele ranked the top 10 quarterback rooms in college football. I took some umbrage with some of the picks. Went through some statistics on that at the top of the show. Talked a little Oklahoma football as Big 12 Media Days wraps up in Arlington. And we did Texas yesterday, Oklahoma today as teams that are coming to the Southeastern Conference for next year. Tennessee got fined $8 million for literally hundreds of violations committed during the Jeremy Pruitt era. That was a tough scene up there in Knoxville. We dove into that. Baton Rouge Community College head coach Byron Starks joined us at 1:45 to talk about his new gig at BRCC. College football coaches entering year 2. Brian Kelly certainly included in that. So is Billy Napier. So is a number of big-name programs and their head coaches. That was at 2 o'clock. Had some thoughts on Malik Neighbors at 2:15. And thanks to Coach Leo McClure for coming on at 2:30 to talk about the fundraiser going on for the Easterling family up there in Central. If you missed any or all of that, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab. You can check all the shows there. You can find us on Google, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Anywhere you find your sound, you can find us, and you can always find us on YouTube as well. You can subscribe to Hunt on LSU as well as Hunt on Saints. All your football content is going to be right there. So we appreciate y'all for checking our stuff out on demand. Our Friday show is brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Get on by there for dinner. Fantastic fried shrimp, fantastic fried catfish, crispy shoestring fries. They can do your catering as well. SEC Media Day is coming up next week. The morning show and Matt will be there. We'll be right here, but we're talking a lot of SEC football next week, so fired up for that. Matt's going to drive you home coming up next on After Further Review. We will see you Monday, same time, same place. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.